Peace, neighbors. Yo, what's poppin' with the population, man? It's your favorite neighbor, Dayron, aka Neighborhood. Welcome back to the greatest mall life show on the planet. Man, I know y'all feel it. I know y'all feel it. Seasons is changing. It's getting cold out here, man. It's getting cold. Full discrepancy, I do live in South Florida, originally from New York, so I know the difference, but I still am cold. I've adjusted to this tropical weather year round. So now I'm adjusted to anything below 50. It's cold. As you guys can see, I got the good fleece on, you heard. I know everywhere, if you don't live in the tropical areas, it's definitely even more cold as we're going into, the holiday season. Just want to talk about the best ways to prepare your trees or your plants to withstand the cold weather. My perspective is definitely coming from one that is of a South Floridian perspective, somebody that deals with a subtropical temperature year round. It does get cold here, but our cold get as low as 35 to 45. I'm specifically speaking on South Florida. Now, if you live more northern Florida, it definitely gets more cold just like it does up north. Like if you live past Orlando, definitely you get northern temperatures. I basically just want to talk about how to prepare your trees for the winter solstice. Whatever you identify the winter as, that is what I want to prepare you guys for your trees so that your trees don't die off. Now, I have well over 100 trees and plants and counting, and it's just growing. We just had a cold front yesterday night from around 5 o'clock-ish all the way into the night. It's November 11th today, so November 10th. The evening time going into late night, it got real cold. This morning, I rose up for a workout and it was extremely cold. It had to be like 45, 40, no, it was 49. And it was cold. It's very cold to somebody that's used to subtropical weather year round. Typically in South Florida, we only deal with this cold weather for spurts of the winter solstice. So it's usually like a 2-week time frame where we're dealing with this cold weather, and then it's gone by January. This year we actually dealt with prolonged cold weather in January, where it was pretty cold throughout the whole January. I don't know if it's gonna be like that this year, but if it is, I'm definitely going to be more prepared for it as far as like with my trees and so forth, as well as I want you to be prepared. The best way to make sure your trees, especially if you grow tropical fruit bearing trees that don't have a period of dormancy or where they hibernate in the cold, such as your apple trees and your pears and stuff of that nature.
Got what fruit hat, tasted like. I eat pears now and shit like that. Shout out to all the pear.
You definitely want to prepare them for the frost, especially if they're still in the pot. Now, if they're in the ground and they're more mature, there's not much you can do, but if they're in the pots, there is a lot you can do. The spring all the way to late fall, I've been doing a lot of grafting. And typically when you're grafting trees, you shouldn't really graft into the cold seasons, especially when it comes to mango trees. Now, avocado trees are different because usually the late seasons that can withstand the cold, you could do grafts like that. But mangoes, you want to make your last graft late fall, so mid to late September, because that will really affect your graft taking if it goes through that cold period. It likes to be in that nice, moist and warm weather when it's taking. In the past couple of days, I executed on a lot of grafts, or a good amount of grafts. So preparing for this temperature drop, I was doing stuff like this, covering it with a plastic bag. This is actually a compostable trash bag, and some of my grafts I also keep in like a plastic bottle. Keeps it like a greenhouse, in there as well. If you watch some of my grafting videos, you can see how I covered my grafts. I do it several ways, so go check that out. Now, I was gonna do that for all my plants, but being that we only were getting 1 day of drop in temperature, like below 50s, I really didn't do much. I only did this one tree, really. I didn't even do the rest because the rest of my grafts are actually covered in foil. So I figured that could keep some of the heat in. And I also water my plants. I water my plants every day, and I definitely gave them a nice big watering the day before. Because when you're watering your plants, especially before the cold, is definitely good because the soil moisture, locks in all that solar heat, and it keeps it nice and moist down there. And that goes for your compost as well. You want to cover up your compost. You don't want to leave it open, and you want to make sure you give it a great big watering before the winter hits or you have that drop in temperature. Typically, why you don't want to water your trees during a extreme temperature shift, especially in South Florida or subtropical areas where it'll go from 60 all the way below 50, is because what will happen is, since that sun is not constantly shining on the soil and it's not soaking up all that solar energy or that solar heat and basically creating some sort of insulation down there for the roots, what will happen is if you water it during and it's not properly drying up like it's used to, it will create like waterlogged conditions for your tree to be living in. And not only that, but it will deprive the environment that your tree is in of oxygen, being that it's waterlogged. Then from there, your tree's roots will start to rot. And that's the main killer of tropical trees is, waterlogged conditions. Give it a great watering before and not during. Let it soak up some of that heat before that shift happens. Usually the shift was going to happen more towards the evening, around 5 o'clock towards the early morning of that next following day, neighbors. Again, like I said, I'm in a tropical area where we only get bits and spurts of coldness, so that works very well. Now, if you live in extreme frost, definitely keep your stuff covered, especially if it snows and you grow tropical trees. I would definitely tell you keep all your plants indoors, whether you have a makeshift greenhouse, a shed, garage, whatever. You want to keep it indoors so they don't die of frost. Tropical fruit bearing trees do not like frost at all. For instance, like when we get our little drops in temperatures, especially for longer than like 2-3 days, you'll start to see all the leaves start to fall off your trees, especially when it comes to your soursop trees and those type of trees in that family. All the leaves start to fall off and it looks naked. It's not dying, but it's just showing you that it really does not mess with the cold weathers like that. I would say the best thing to do is, especially if you're in a subtropical area like South Florida or even a little bit more northern Florida, if it doesn't snow and it doesn't get extremely below 40, cover your plants. You can either cover them individually or get like a nice tarp or something, put them all in one area, put some sticks or some type of things to hold up the tarp so it's not leaning on the trees, and put all your trees under that tarp and make sure there's no air getting in. Make sure you're keeping that heat in and locking them in, and make sure before that drop in temperature comes, you're giving them a nice water and letting them soak up that sun so the soil can lock in all that solar heat and keep the roots down there nice and warm. That also goes for your compost as well. If you compost like me, let me show you guys my compost. I want to give it a nice big watering as well. This is a big old thing of compost, and you want to make sure you cover it. Now, my compost bin is called a geo bin, and it has a bunch of holes all over it. So what I like to do and what I need to do also is get me a nice big tarp so I could cover all of it and that could lock in that moisture. But usually if you have a lot of compost in there, there's a lot of heat trapped in the middle as well, so it's gonna stay nice and moist and warm in there. As long as you keep it covered on the top, you don't really have to worry about that too often. Also, neighbors, the big reason why you want to cover your trees is so you can lock in that heat and create sort of like a greenhouse during times where the temperature is much lower, especially here in South Florida. Very bipolar, and usually throughout the year our bipolar is it just rains just randomly, you know what I'm saying? It'll be a tropical storm for 45 minutes straight, and then the sun will be shining and it'd be looking lovely out here, you feel me? Around this time, from like the middle to end of November all the way to January, it usually is bipolar with a day or two throughout the week possibly being cold. Usually we have like a 2-week span where it's like just cold for 2 weeks, but as global warming has changed, sometimes it's just more erratic. So make sure you're properly covering this. All I did was use a trash bag and I put a rubber band around it so it could keep it tight. And this is actually a grafted tree that I'm trying to protect. Again, I didn't wrap all my trees. I literally only did one tree, and I was like, man, I'm not doing all this because I have a lot of trees. I have over 100 trees and plants, so I didn't really care to do that. And the only reason why I didn't is because it was only one day that we were experiencing where it's gonna get to like below 50, 40s, you want to make sure you're covering it. Now, if it's under 40, definitely better cover your trees or put them inside, neighbors. That's all I had to tell you guys today. Keep it nice and short. Make sure you are protecting your plants, especially if you've recently done some grafts before the temperature change, or you have a bunch of tropical fruit bearing trees that are still in pots, or plants like, sorrel or hibiscus plants, your sweet potatoes, cover those. Leaf for life, make sure you're covering them properly so that you can lock in that moisture in deep in the soil and keep those roots nice and warm, because once they start to feel that cold temperature, it's really going to affect your tree. It can possibly be fatal. And I want you guys to have all your trees going into the new year, or what I call the true new year, which is spring, is March 20th, so that your trees can get bigger, get stronger, grow more vigorously, and eventually soon be planted in the ground, or you can upgrade the pot so they can start fruiting, neighbors. But if you don't properly prepare them throughout winter, then you won't be able to experience your trees growing in pots and fruiting in pots, or being able to transplant them properly in the ground so that they could become a fruit bearing tree that can grant you fruit for the coming, neighbors. Let's get outside, let's get to growing so our health could get to glowing. Make sure to comment neighborhood in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. Also, give this episode a like and subscribe to the neighborhood. Why? So we can continue to grow the neighborhood one neighbor at a time. If you guys want to start your food forest but don't know where to start, make sure to go check out the online plant nursery at nhgrowers.com. We got a growing collection of fruit bearing trees, seeds, and seasonal herbs. And it's growing. We have grafted trees, about to have air layer trees, and much more. Go check out what your favorite neighbor has to offer. I already know the mainstay neighborhood motto, which is grow your own / support true righteous local growers like myself, or continue to rely on a broken system to supply you their own. And we all know what their own comes with. Share this with a fellow neighbor so we can spread the message in the neighborhood. Let's keep it rocking, man. Peace, love, light, much healing to you and yours. It's your favorite neighbor, Dayron, aka Neighborhood. See you on the next one. Yeah,